Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Brad and welcome back to the channel. This is another episode of the Book Report where I come check in with you guys and give you updates on what I've been reading, what I'm currently reading, what my future reading plans are, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll dive into it. I don't know if the lighting is bad. It's very overcast outside, so it might look terrible on the video. I don't know, but we're gonna go ahead and dive into it anyway. So the first book I want to talk about, I've been reading this one it took me like a month and a half to get through this book. It's like 1,100 pages. I've been talking about it a few times on the channel, but I finally finished it up. And that is, the dust jacket doesn't slide off. That is The Stand by Stephen King. I'm also participating in the Read What You Own challenge. I'm trying to read 25 books that I already own, 25 physical books that I already own before I buy any new ones, and this was number one that I finished for that challenge, so I'm excited for that. I'm excited to finally get this checked off of my Stephen King reading list. I won't say too much about it because I did film a rapid review for this. It should already be up and live now by the time you're watching this video. If I can, I'll link to it up here in the cards if you want to check that out, my quick thoughts on this one. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It's not my favorite Stephen King, like I've said before. Salem's Lot still holds the number one place. I do think this would probably be somewhere in the top 10 or so. I don't think top 5, because I can name 5 other Stephen King books I liked more than this one. But this was definitely enjoyable. Like I said in the rapid review, my only nitpick is the pacing really bogs down at one point. Once we kind of get into Boulder, Colorado, they're trying to kind of rebuild society, rebuild the government, and that's very slow and kind of tedious. But after that, the pacing picks back up through the rest of the book. I also like the ending to the book. A lot of people say the ending isn't great. I wasn't blown away by the ending by any means, but I did enjoy it. There's kind of this event that happens, and we have about 100 or so pages left, and the rest of the book, that's kind of like the climactic event. And then the rest of the book is kind of the fallout, the fall from that event, and the ramifications of that. But I did like the ending. It's a very Stephen King ending, where I feel like he builds up to these things, and then things usually happen really quickly, like they do in real life. There's not usually big drawn out battles or anything like that. It's something snappy, quick happens, and that's kind of the end of it, and we're left to deal with the consequences of that. And that's how the ending is here. But I also felt it was a very human ending that we get with some of our characters, and I enjoyed the ending. But yeah, this book was fun. It's a journey. The best part about it is the characters. Awesome cast of characters in here. Stu Redman, Tom Cullen, Nick, Franny, the Trash Can Man, Randall Flagg, Harold Lauder. Great cast of characters, whether they were good guys or bad guys. I enjoyed all of the characters in this book. Well, like I said, whether they were good or evil, they were still enjoyable to read on the page. If you like big post-apocalyptic books, I would recommend checking out The Stand. But yeah, finally finished up The Stand by Stephen King. Glad to check that one off of my list finally. So I finished The Stand. I really enjoyed the world, really enjoyed the characters, so I kind of wanted to stay in that world, keep it fresh. So I decided to pick up The End of the World as We Know It. This is an anthology of short stories that take place in the world of The Stand. It's edited by Christopher Golden and Brian Keene. So I wanted to keep The Stand fresh in my mind while I dove into this one. I think there's like 34 stories in this one or so. I'm going to try to read a story every day. So it'll take me probably about till the end of the year to get through this one. I've read the first 3 so far. I still need to read the one for today. But this one so far has been honestly kind of disappointing, if I'm being truthful about it. Not that the stories are bad, but they're also not memorable so far. The first one was by Caroline Kepnes, which I haven't read her other stuff. I think her main book was called You. And what I know about it, it's kind of about the stalker, and that's very on par with her story in here. This guy's kind of infatuated with this woman and will do anything he can to be with her. And then the second story I've got some issues with. So I'm going to rant for a minute about the second story. I usually don't rant, but I don't know. There was this one tiny little detail, and maybe I'm being too nitpicky. Maybe I wouldn't have even noticed it if I didn't just come off reading The Stand. But within The Stand, all right, let's get into the rant. So within The Stand, Stephen King, he sets a pretty good timeline of events. Book 1, it says takes place from like June 13th to like July 14th. Book 2 is like middle of July to like end of August, September, and so on. And then throughout the book, it'll mention, what specific day it is for certain events. So we've got a pretty good timeline as far as, what should be happening around this certain time. All right. So in this story, it's set at the beginning of the book. It's the second story in there, and all those stories are supposed to be at the very beginning of this pandemic. So, beginning of June or so, when people are first getting sick with Captain Trips and things like that, which is what's happening in the story. Within the story, they're talking about watching the news and learning about Captain Trips on the news and things like that, which is fine. Kind of the main character from that story, he says he's having dreams of Mother Abigail, and she's telling him to come to Nebraska, which all that is all fine and dandy. But my issue with it is it mentions that it's the heat of August, how hot it is during August, which is when that story is set, and that is the wrong timeline. It messes with the timeline. Those events should not be taking place in August, and just the mention of that, I don't know, it threw me off for the rest of the story, and I couldn't think of anything else other than, all these events are not happening at the right time. So, if anyone was getting sick with Captain Trips, they would have got it and been dead no later than like middle July. And then also, by the time August rolls around, there are no more newscasts. All the major cities, there's no more power. This story takes place in Philadelphia. So there shouldn't be any power. There's no one watching TV at that point like they are in the story. And then also by August, no one is having dreams about Mother Abigail anymore. And she's not even in Nebraska. She's in Boulder, Colorado by the time August rolls around. So I don't know why. Maybe I'm being super nitpicky. You can let me know if you think I am or not. But just saying it was set in August, that just threw the whole timeline off and kind of ruined that story for me. If it would have said, even if it just said, the summer heat, great. Summer heat would have been fine. June heat, July heat. But saying it was in August just really messed with the timeline and just kind of ruined my enjoyment for the rest of that story. The author should have caught that. The editors should have caught that, in my opinion, and had them change that. It's not even a big plot point for that story. It's just like a throwaway line. It was the August heat, and it killed the whole story for me. So that was my little rant about that. So if you're gonna play in someone else's sandbox and they've got a timeline, maybe follow the timeline. Anyway, sorry for ranting, but this so far, it's just okay. I hope it gets better. There's a lot of authors I really enjoy. I haven't got to their stories yet, so hopefully this picks up and I like their stories. But 3 stories into it, and so far it's okay. Nothing to write home about. Not bad, but not great either. So going to continue on with that anthology, reading 1 story a day, and it should take me 30 some odd days to get through that one. So I'm currently reading that one. I'm also reading, this is the Spine Brokers Book Club pick for the final quarter of this year, so rest of November and December, and that is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Now this one I am really enjoying. I haven't actually spent too much reading time in here yet, but it feels like it's moving really fast. I'm 60 pages into it, but I feel like I haven't spent much time in here, but I'm really enjoying this one so far. And I think the events are kind of told out of order. There's kind of a prologue. It's not called a prologue, but we find out that our main character, I guess she's the main character, but we're not really seeing stuff through her eyes. Some parts of it, we're following 2 sisters, Frida and Claudia, I think, that are, I guess, our main character. Her name is Piccola. She kind of comes to live with them for a little while. But kind of like in the prologue, we find out that Piccola has been impregnated by her father, which is disgusting. And then we kind of rewind and find out, how do we lead up to that being a thing? And Piccola herself, she is just in a bad situation. First of all, her family's poor. Her parents are kind of indifferent and neglectful. They don't really have anything to do with the children unless they're telling them to do something. Other than that, they don't really care about the kids. And then Piccola thinks that she is ugly mainly I think because she's never been told otherwise. She's a big fan of Shirley Temple, and like any kind of doll toy you would get at this time would have blue eyes and blonde hair. So she thinks that's kind of what the epitome of beauty is having blonde hair and blue eyes. And that's kind of what she wants for herself. She thinks she's ugly because, she's got black skin, brown eyes, black hair, and she's not quote unquote what I guess the picture of beauty would be considered during this time frame. This takes place in like the late 30s, very early 1940s. So we're kind of following Piccola and her story, and how just she basically doesn't think she's good enough in the eyes of everyone else and herself. She thinks she's ugly, and she's just praying and wishing for blue eyes and blonde hair. But so far, this is really good. I think I'm going to get through it quick once I actually invest some time into it. Like I said, I feel like I haven't spent much time, and I've already got 60 pages into it. But this is really good. I've read Beloved by Toni Morrison. I really enjoyed that one. I think I want to go through all of her books. I've got one of her other ones. I think it's called The Song of Solomon. I think it's the other one I own. I have no idea what that one's about. But I think she's got 15 fiction books, and maybe that would be like a goal, a challenge I'd like to set for myself, is to read all through of Toni Morrison's fiction. Because this is really good so far. I'm enjoying this one. This is The Bluest Eye, again by Toni Morrison. If you're interested in reading along with us, you can hop over on the Discord where we will be discussing it, throughout the quarter. Some people have already finished it, and varying opinions on it, which is fine. Everyone's opinion is different. So yeah, this one so far really good. Really enjoying, especially her writing. I feel like it's easy to understand, and it's really kind of beautiful and poignant writing. Really enjoying that one. So that's what I'm currently reading. So I did get a book in the mail recently. So I'm doing the Read What You Own challenge. I'm not supposed to buy anything, but I can still accept books, I guess you could say. But I think I agreed to this one before that, before I started the challenge, back when I was doing like the 31 Days of Horror books in October. So I was sent this one. This is The Rack Volume 2, edited by Tom Deedy. I've read Volume 1 already. I did mention that one I did recommend it during the 31 Days of Horror books for October. I'll link that up here. Volume 1 was awesome. This is an anthology, and it's all short stories that are heavily inspired by 80s vintage horror. So anything that would have been put out by like Zebra Horror or Leisure Horror back in the 80s. The paperbacks from hell that Grady Hendrix curated, all those types of stories were the inspiration for the stories in here. I'm looking forward to this one. Like I said, I really enjoyed Volume 1. This one's got a bunch of other authors that I am. Some I'm familiar with, some I'm not, but Todd Kiesling's in here, Jenny Kiefer, John Langan, Joe R. Lansdale, Eric LaRocca, Jonathan Mayberry is in here, to name a few. So I'm really excited for this one. I really enjoyed Volume 1, like I said, and if this is just as good as Volume 1, I will be pleased with that one. So thanks to Aaron for sending this one along my way. This is The Rack Volume 2, edited by Tom Deedy. It's got an introduction by Sadie Hartman, Mother Horror. Looking forward to getting to that one at some point in the future. Like I said, I really enjoyed Volume 1. So that's what I got, what I'm currently reading. So what am I wanting to read next? And that's kind of a conundrum. I don't really know what I want to read next. I'm also currently reading on audiobook Return of the King, but I haven't really done that in a while. So I'll just mention it really quick. Still listening to Return of the King. I would love to get it done before the end of the year, but I haven't really been listening to audiobooks lately. So that's what else is going on with audiobooks. Back to this. So what do I want to read next? I don't really know. So once I get done with The Bluest Eye, this is kind of like my stack of possibilities here for what I'm kind of interested in right now to read next. So drop that one on the floor. We'll go through these. What fell out of there? Card fell out of there. Okay. Sorry. Distracted. We'll go through these really quick. Just to show them off. I mentioned this one last week. This is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is a buddy read that is being hosted by Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books on her Discord for November. This is book 1 in a trilogy, though. So I don't know if I want to start this one yet. since I'm doing the Read What You Own challenge, I won't be able to buy book 2 and 3 for a while. So this is one possibility. Next up is There by Tommy Orange. Oh, and this one and then all the other ones were on my 25 books I wanted to read this year. Obviously, I haven't got to these yet. So I might try to focus on this stack and see if I can knock out some of these before the end of the year. This is There by Tommy Orange. We've got Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates. We've got James by Percival Everett. We have Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. And then finally, we've got Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Aja-Brinya. So that's kind of my stack of possibilities here. All these books are falling for what I might want to read next. So if you have read any of these, maybe you can recommend, let me know which one I should prioritize and read next, because I don't know. I want it to be one of these. Black Sun down there too, maybe. But I don't know yet. We'll see what I'm feeling like when the time comes around. But that's the stack of possibilities for what I might be reading next. It'll be one of those for sure. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. I'm starting to get a little tickle in my throat. I need a drink of water, so we're going to wrap this up. But appreciate y'all hanging out, spending your time with me today. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.